good afternoon. I am in my studio, and Melissa and I have talked about doing this for a couple weeks and was trying to find the best way we can do this. So keep in mind we're still, this is the first time trying it out, whether you had problems printing the image or getting the emails. This is all stuff we can talk about a little bit later. But for now, if you don't have the image, we have it up here. It should be clear enough because remember, we're just using it as a reference. So we'll work on all those little glitches. So whether you're joining for the first time or you've been doing this for a while, I'm gonna try to keep the instructions, quite general, and you can work at your own pace, and you can take this as far as you want and can. One thing to remember is that drawing is 50% observation, and then the rest is how you put it together. When we're looking at something like this, the Brooklyn Bridge, this is not my sketch. I did find it. I almost thought it was mine because it looks like something that I would totally do. And I thought, New York is on everyone's mind. I thought that would be a great subject. And I think it has some really, clear lines and angles that we can work with. And I like the looseness of it. And, it's a great kind of image for us to play around with and kind of, do your own thing. So the first thing when you look at something architectural like this is I want you to remember that you absolutely do not have to have straight lines. In order to create the straightest line, oops.
Noelle, can I just interrupt for 1 second? For those of you who aren't familiar with Zoom, there are different views you can have on your screen. The gallery view allows you to see all the participants, but if you hit on the speaker view, the image of Noelle and her paper will be larger than everyone else, so you can see better what she's drawing and you can see her image a little bit more clearly. So I would recommend for now going on to speaker view instead of the gallery view.
Okay, thanks. We asked for you to just have a pencil. I have like a colored pencil. It's black, and I chose it so that it would be more clear, but you can pretty much use anything. You can use a pen, a pencil, whatever you have handy. And as we move forward with the classes, we're going to try to introduce some other materials, whether you have them or not. You can still have the option of doing it with any material that you have. So again, going back to creating a straight line, realize that you do not have to have a line that consistently goes all the way through straight. You can feather your lines, which means that you have the option of looking at what you did before and going down and just kind of seeing. You don't really need to see what I'm doing right now, just kind of the movement of the hand. So that's the first thing I want you to keep in mind, is that we're not looking for straight lines. And if you actually look at the image, you can see that it's a bunch of tangled lines. And I really like that. It just has a lot more artistic value to it. So the very first thing I want to show you is I want you to think of where it's positioned and how we're going to show that angle. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a point on my paper right around the middle left, if you want to go ahead and do that. So again, this is just a point of reference, and it's not something that is going to, really show. I'm just putting a big X so you can see where it is. And the first line I'm going to draw is probably the clearest line I can see, which is this one right here, or any one of them. And I'm just going to place it down here. Now I'm kind of going to go dark so you can see. And I'm going to go all the way from, you know, leaving a few inches and then going down. Can everybody see that line? I'm just gonna do it again so you can see it. I'm just making it a little bit bold. So one thing to keep in mind when you are drawing an architectural structure and you have these straight lines or, you know, hard edges, is that anything that is vertical is pretty much going to stay vertical. It's not going to sway. Where your lines are going to change is the lines that are going into the distance, which are your horizontal lines, like this up here. And like these. Now, ideally, if you're standing straight right in front of it, these lines would be straight, but because you're looking at them in the distance, they are going into more of a diagonal. So what we're going to do is we are going to find this angle, and that's why I put my mark over here, which is the viewpoint. It's called a vanishing point. So this means that anything that is horizontal in your picture is going to follow this guideline, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to establish the top of the bridge, and I'm going to go from the top all the way to there. It doesn't have to be exactly on it. And I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. Now the bottom one, see, mine was not even that close, but it's close enough to be going into that direction. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to put in the basic breakdown of the structure on the vertical part. So I have the end of it kind of goes pretty much like over here, and you can kind of guess how big that needs to be. So this gives me this part. And the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to put in the bridge itself, the path. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a point pretty much like I did over here. I'm going to make it just a little bit lower. So if you take this, just go a little bit lower on your right and just put a mark. And, you know, again, these are things that you don't have to do, but they will help you get the angles to be convincing. I mean, these are all visual illusions. Lines don't actually change shape in the distance. They just appear to be different. And what I'm going to do is I am going to draw a line over here. And I'm going to do the same thing. So this actually here is the bridge itself. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split this area. We have these two arches. So when you're trying to draw something and you want to give it some accuracy, it's important to look and see, what am I looking at? Am I looking at an edge? Am I looking at a line? Am I looking at a shadow? And, you know, honestly, with many artists, it's a point of view. So again, if you've never drawn something like this before, if you've never drawn at all, you know, just trust what you're seeing. Don't try to make it look like something you think somebody else thinks it should look like. You know, just draw what you see. Now, if we're going to look at these two you know, columns, let's say, you're going to see that one is wider than the other. So the reason is this one is further away from us. This arch is also higher because it's closer to us. And this one is a little bit lower. So I would say that I'm just going to move a little bit off center to create the two partitions. So I'm going to kind of do that here. So I've got arch 1 here, arch 2 here. Okay, so now in order to get their distance from each other and their height. I'm going to draw, these are imaginary lines, okay? So don't go too dark on it. And I'm just going to go from the side to that vanishing point. So, and I'm gonna mark in the middle, one arch top is gonna be here, and one is going to be there. Is that making sense? Raise your hand if it makes sense. Susanna? Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, so do you want to show me kind of just what you have so far? Okay, let's see, okay, great. Carol, I can't see yours. I want to see it. Okay. Hey, oh, hey, hi, Andre. Lucia, I can't see yours. Can I see yours? Can you just lift it up a little bit? Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Melissa, do you want to see?
Okay, if you have a question, raise your hand. Here, I'm gonna, actually, everyone's unmuted right now, so if you have questions, you can go ahead and talk.
Anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, how do you determine where to put that vanishing point? Or is it just
no, that's a good question. Now, ideally, when you're constructing your own drawing, let's say you don't have a reference, okay, you just kind of want to decide on your point of view. You know, are you standing high up and looking down? Are you looking down? And so I put it like at a neutral point, like we're just looking at it like straight on. And the view here is almost like you're a little bit looking at it from under. So when you look at it visually, if you're going to imagine if this line were to go on forever.
I see.
And then go on forever, where would they cross? And that's kind of how you make the decision. And, you know, again, depending, if you try just drawing like a box and putting a point somewhere and do it three-dimensional, you'll be able to kind of see how it changes what something looks like. But, you know, generally when you're just doing, you know, a non-complex perspective, you just kind of put it at a central left or right point. But this one, obviously, we are looking at it this way. So, vanishing point. So here, on the bridge, it just kind of seems to be going that way. So I put it here. Any other questions? Okay, if we don't have any questions, I'm going to.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute everything again.
And so the first one is over here, and I'm just going to draw. Now you don't have to stick to exactly what this looks like, you know. So your arch does not have to look exactly the same. I'm going to put the just the outside of the arch. Okay. And then from, see, notice I'm kind of focusing on the left because on the right, I do have those dark shadows. Okay. And then in the middle here, I have that column. You can go ahead and kind of put that in. Okay. And I think at this point you can do a little bit of shading. The reason I like to incorporate some shading while I'm drawing is that it kind of helps make things pop out. It helps, you know, kind of see what you're doing, especially with perspective drawings. You are getting a bunch of lines and sometimes it becomes a little harder to see what you're doing. So I'm going to take the side of my pencil. And I'm just going to do just some light shading. Okay, and I'm also going to shade out the area. I'm doing that just a little bit lighter. And remember, when you're first starting out, make sure that you don't go too dark. You always want to give yourself the option of going darker, because you can do that, but it's hard to go lighter unless you want to use an eraser. And notice on this one up here, I'm not really seeing the other side of it. It's hidden by this post over here, which again is a great time to put in these posts over here, this big structure. So this is where this other line is going to come in handy, because I am going to just kind of just use that as a guide. You know, it's just going in the same direction. It doesn't have to go right onto it. Because also you have to remember that when you do a perspective drawing using points, you know, you're using a system, and you can't let the system dictate everything that you're going to do. Otherwise it's going to look like, you know, like an architectural map or something, and you want it to look more like a fine arts piece. So the reason I just use that line is, you know, I can see that there's an angle up here. And again, you know, part of doing a successful drawing is recognizing what's an edge, what's an angle, what's a line, what's a shadow, how dark it is. So just, you know, be thoughtful, and with lines that you put in and anything that you add, and always compare it to everything else. And it's a good idea to kind of try to work all around your drawing so that it's cohesive, and you're able to see if something is sticking out, and you can fix it before it's too late. Okay, so again, we have this edge over here, which is this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put the left side, okay, which actually makes more sense. So I'm going to go ahead and just, you know, just kind of shade that. And again, for quick shading, you can just kind of do just like lines. And the artist that did this sketch kind of did that. They're just, okay. And remember, something like this, you know, you can always work on it later. What I'm trying to do in this session is really give you enough pointers that you can work on it on your own. Okay, now I can see that it has just a little bit of a ridge going up here. I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to put my other line. Again, notice you can just feather out your line. It doesn't have to be one strong line that goes down. And another thing I liked about this this sketch is that it's kind of feathered out. So, you know, whether you draw the whole length of it or part of it, you know, it kind of looks like it's dissolved on the sides, and I think that's pretty cool. So what I did with these lines over here is I kind of did a downward diagonal, and on the other side, I'm going to do it in the other direction, okay? You see, kind of like we're creating like an upside down V, and that's just going to help with perspective as well. And also I'm working on a large size so that everybody can see it, but I imagine most of you are working on a smaller size like that. So your lines will probably be closer together, but you can also go with, you know, very traditional shading. And then I'm going to put in the one next to it. Okay. And this one seems to be almost like it's facing. So I'm going to keep my shaded lines kind of straight. See, it's amazing once you change the direction of a line, how much it can affect what something looks like. So I've got the diagonals up, the diagonals down, and then I've got straight on. So before I move any further, I'm going to work a little bit on the bridge, on that walking bridge. So I am going to go back over here. And so we have the width of the railing, and I'm just going to, so again, I'm using this point. See, these become very helpful. At first, when people are first starting to draw and do perspective drawings, you think that all those points and lines are complicated. They're there to help you, okay? And you just need to keep in mind that they are your friend. And so I'm going to assess how wide the bridge is going to be over here. And you can look at the drawing just for scale and see, well, it's about like half the size of this, a quarter size of this line. Always use what you have. And I am going to go from the bottom to my vanishing point, and then from the top to my vanishing point. Okay, so what I have here is the bridge itself. So I'm going to start by just doing some vertical lines. And notice how, can you see the perspective? Raise your hand if you can see the perspective. Can you see it on yours? Okay. And everybody kind of see it on their drawing? Sharon, how are you doing? Good. Okay. All right. Another cool cool thing that is in the drawing is that from those vertical lines, there's like a line that goes diagonal from the top. And I think it's just making like a really almost like realistic effect. So go at the top of your line and just go to the bottom of the one next to it, okay? So from the top of the line to the bottom of, like, skip one and go. You can do it all the way down. And then when it gets small, I just kind of wing it because you can't really see. All right, so this is a good time to kind of check lines. I'm gonna kind of pull myself back a little bit so I can see. And I can see that I need to be careful with these two lines and just make sure that they are vertically straight. Okay, and it doesn't mean that you have to change the entire line. The only thing you need to do is just need to kind of, you know, pull it to the right or to the left. Okay, now let's do the tops of these posts here. I wouldn't worry too much about their perspective. Just kind of look and see where they're going. As long as you're following this line, they are going to make sense. And just kind of follow the direction. And then we've got this line over here. Okay, I'm gonna go over here and just do the tip. Now these here, that's quite a shaded area. That would be kind of fun to just do that a little bit, go a little bit darker. And also when you shade, it's a great opportunity to actually start fixing certain areas. Shading is not separate from the drawing itself. Some people say, oh, I'm done with the lines now, I'm just gonna shade in. Always be mindful with your shading. Your shading is there to help shape it. You're just not, filling in dark and light spaces. You want it to complement your drawing. So, okay. And the more confident you feel that everything, is starting to come together, you can go a little bit darker. Okay. So now we're going to do the kind of the underside of the bridge. And what I'm going to do is, I know this is going to sound a little, I don't want to give you another point to work with. So what I want you to do is from over here where it starts, I just want you to do like a slight diagonal all the way down here. Okay. And then we're just going to have that line go up this way. Maybe a little bit more of an angle. And I'm going to shade this dark. Now, to me, when I'm looking at this, I just feel that this part doesn't excite me that much. I don't think it's an important visual point. It's there to anchor everything. So I'm not going to give it that much attention. I'm just going to kind of shade it. Because also when you're making a drawing, you want to think about what you want to use as a focal point. And to me, it's definitely going to be these arches and probably these lines that are coming down. And then I'm going to break this down into a few panels. And then okay. I'm just going to give it a light shade. Now, when, you know, of course, if this is going to stay in sketch form, these shading lines are fine. If you're going to make this into a little bit more of a finished piece, you can do it slower. I just want to give you kind of an overall view of what this could look like. And then we're going to do just this side over here. And see, even on the original, it was kind of like, you know, just a little bit of shading just to anchor everything. I'm just making that darker. See how it makes it pop? And then I'm going to go over here. Okay, so I'm going to let you work for a few minutes. I'm going to sharpen my pencil. One tip that I like, I mean, some people absolutely do not like to do this, but what I do is I sharpen both ends so that when I'm finding my groove, I don't have to stop and sharpen. Okay, so just shade a little bit and for about 5 minutes, and then you hold them up and show me what you have, and I'm gonna sharpen this. So don't work on the arches yet, because I have something I want to show you with them. All right. Melissa, you want to see if anyone has any questions while working on shading?
Sure, everyone is unmuted now.
Oh, that looks, Sharon, that looks great.
Oh, okay.
I have a question here.
Yes, Pam.
You know, I'm just having trouble with lines, drawing them straight. Would you have a tip? Because I mean, I don't know if it's just the angle I'm doing this. I have it on a big pad, and I've got it on the back of my chair, and not on an easel. And I'm just like the verticals, or all of them. They're in my hands, not a wave. You know, I don't have shakes or anything, but
okay,
I'm having trouble. So I just.
Well, I mean, what I'm seeing, it looks good. I mean, first thing you have to realize is that it's going to take time for it to come together. If you're seeing something that is off, then that's a good thing, because you're able to fix it. But when you're working on a large size like you are, and I am, moving back to be able to see everything is important. So maybe just once in a while, and I wouldn't be drawing on an easel if I weren't doing the class. I would be more of like an angled, have it on my lap.
Oh, all right. Well, that.
Yeah. I just feel that I can kind of move it back and forth instead of moving myself back and forth. Can you tell me specifically what's bothering you about the lines?
Yeah, I mean, I can't, and this has always been, so I don't, here it is.
Okay.
I mean, I just feel like, I don't know.
It looks
not working fine.
my lines are not straight at all.
Well,
Well, yours, I think, and
you want to give them the illusion of being straight. It's not straight either whatsoever. But when you do key areas, like for example, like over here, you know, when you darken that, see, you're pulling the eye over there. Let me just show you how straight I can make this line look with just giving the illusion. Then again, if I go down here, okay, can you see how now it's giving me the illusion of being straight? It's, I mean, unless you're doing an architectural drawing and pulling out a ruler, they don't need to be. The one thing you just need to make sure is that they're not skewed. And the thing is, if one line skews and then you're using it as a guide for the others, then yes, your entire drawing is going to be, you know, kind of moving around, so that you have to be careful of. But, you know, I'm all about trusting instinct. You know, if you see something you don't like, you know, try to find what it is. But also remember that it takes time for something to come together. It's gonna look, and I say this to the class all the time, it's gonna look ugly before it looks pretty. So, you know, it's all just part of the process.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh,
Andre, you okay? Oh, okay, there you are. Okay. Okay. So, anybody want to kind of show me a close-up of what they're doing? Phyllis, how's it going?
I don't know if you could see it.
Yes, looks good. Yeah.
I came kind of late. I have trouble with my internet, I guess. So I don't know if you can see.
Who's talking to me?
Lucia?
Lucia, let me see.
raise your hand.
Oh, there you are.
Behind you.
I see you. Okay. Okay, looks great. You know what's funny is that, like, I'm seeing some of the opposite way. Yeah. Yeah. Jerry, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, but I've got a great big pad here, so I'll try to hold it on.
Here. Well,
Oh, wow. You got a lot done. And this is right up your alley, Jerry.
Yeah, I
Perspective.
just love this.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Oh, Melissa.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow. Somebody's been attending class. That looks great. That looks really good. What pencil are you? Are you using a pencil or?
Yeah, it's a Ticonderoga.
Wow, you've got some pretty strong lines there. That looks great. That looks great. Susanna, how are we doing? Can't hear Susanna. Oh, wow. Honestly, ladies, these look fantastic.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Susanna, that's great.
Carol has not showed me anything.
Uh-oh.
This reason,
No, I mean, no pressure.
I'll show you. I have one disadvantage.
Maybe classes you can hide it on for me. Sharon, how are you doing?
Oh, great. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't changed much.
Okay. Looks great. Have you done any drawing before or?
No.
Okay. Wow.
I think 7th grade art class.
Well, must have been a good 7th grade art teacher. So that's great.
Well, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Andre, you're good?
Hello,
Yes.
you talking to me?
Yes, Andre, show me your drawing.
It took, yeah. I just wanted to know, we're stopping at 2 o'clock or 3?
We are stopping at 2. We're gonna see. You know, we're still trying to figure this out. But for now, we thought we'd do an hour. And of course, if you need any extra help, you know, you can always email me, and we'll see. But for now, we're gonna do it. You know, we're figuring it out. So for now, it's yes, it is
Can
going
we
to-
show you more or less what we've done so far?
Yes. I mean, you can show me like now, or
I
you
don't
can,
know how to show you.
just put it kind of towards your camera. Yeah.
I'm
Just
I'm not
okay.
very good at that.
Lift
Put it in front of your face.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I can see it. Wow, looks great. And you started shading the arches too.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's negative, it's backwards.
It does look backwards. You know, we're kind of
Anyway,
different. What can we say?
Okay, Noelle, here's my little
Who's talking to me?
Carol.
Oh, Carol. Okay. Okay.
I don't know if you can see it.
A little bit more to the left. A little
Yeah.
bit? Yeah. Okay. Wow. Honestly, these look great.
I wish I had a
Everybody
copy.
who is this, Melinda?
Noelle?
Yeah.
I wish I would have gotten a copy of that bridge.
There was a copy sent out, so
I didn't
listen-
get his email for some period.
Okay.
I didn't.
This is really fun
Yes.
It is fun. I feel like I'm in kindergarten.
because I can't do anything unless somebody's pushing me.
All right, we're all pushing you.
Yes.
We're gonna push you.
Listen, ladies. Melissa and I will talk about, you know, we're gonna reflect on this and see what we can do differently. And so the image is one of the things to consider. And we will figure out a way that everybody will have it beforehand. Just remember, we're still trying this out, and your feedback is important. And we will do everything that we can to make it go more smoothly. Okay. And you know, and again, if you don't have your image today, whatever, I mean, just there's a lot of great information and kind of seeing what everyone else is doing. And for an hour, we have our mind off everything that's going on. So Melissa, I'm going to go back to drawing. So we've got about 20 minutes left. I'm going to tackle the arches now. A lot of fun. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to create the structure of that wall of the arch. So I'm going to go from up over here. And one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that this width that you have here, try to stay consistent with that, okay? So just, you know, do a little bit of a line and kind of look at it a little bit more. Now you want to follow this arch that you have here, because that's the other side of it. Okay, and then it straightens out. Okay. Then we're going to do the other one again, going from the top. Follow that arch over here. And then it straightens out. And now the fun begins with shading this. So you've got some really deep shading in there. And see, this is what, you know, I was talking about with, you know, the key to drawing is you know, being able to observe and differentiate. You can obviously see that the shadows are really dark here and they start fading out. So what we're gonna do is we are going to go really deep in here. And that's assuming that you're happy with how the arch looks and you think the perspective and everything. You know, just really make sure that you are going with a straight line here. Not straight as in perfectly straight, but aligned properly. Okay, you don't want it to be skewed. So just check that, because you don't want your arches to look like they're leaning. Okay, so I'm going to use the side of the pencil. The side will always give you a lot more body to work with. And I am going to start quite deeply. Don't go with your maximum darkness yet. And if you look at it overall, it's darker than the rest of the bridge, but inside here is where it gets really deep. Do that. And again, while you're doing that, you know, use it to also shape. I'm seeing just a little bit of an edge here that I did not see before. Again, that's when you look more than once, you'll be able to see. So before I finalize this, I'm going to move on to the sister over here. And again, I noticed that I needed to shape it just a little bit more. And I think also one thing that I noticed, I think the arches are like a little bit steeper. So I'm going to lift them up just a little bit. They just have more of kind of a steeple shape. So I'm going to do that. And you don't really have to use your perspective lines, just kind of just pull it up just a little bit. Okay, so I have them both shaded in, and I'm going to now intensify the shading. And also what would be cool is to kind of just pull it out just a little bit to this corner here, because we also do have some shading there. Okay, so now it has the depth. That's kind of a fun detail to do up here with the, I don't know if they're bricks or wire or what is it? It looks pretty cool. And then again, over here, and I'm going to sharpen those points. And keeping in with kind of the line shading technique, which again is a fast technique to do, I'm going to implement that here, incorporate it in with the lighter area of shading, and kind of have it go through. And that's going to give me one extra layer of okay. And then, so, yep. I'm going to put in these lines that are over here, these cable lines, put them in. Again, you know, these are not focal points. They're just kind of extensions, let's say, of the structure itself, and they're done really loosely. And remember that these kind of they're going to have a curve to them because they're you know, part of it is hanging in the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this just a slight curve like that, and then the other one. But again, I am using my points over here, and then my points over here, just to use them as guidelines. So we do have the ones that are going here, and kind of like, you know, it just has a little bit of chaos to it, which is kind of cool. And then these seem to be moving out of the picture. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of shading work on the railing over here, and then I'm going to do a little bit over up here. Okay, so again, this is where if you like to cross hatch, that would kind of be fun to do some of it. Again, you know, the style is very loose, so I'm not really going into a very, you know, tightly woven crosshatch. I'm just using it to create depth. I'm going to shade a little bit more underneath the bridge. And then it does seem that all these cables are coming up from this point. Actually, now I just noticed that it's almost like they do have like meeting points, and then those lines kind of go to the railing. I'm kind of doing them like wavy lines. And I see some coming from up here. I think this needed to be straightened. So again, you know, if this is a sketch and all I have is this hour, it's a complete sketch. If you want to carry it further and, you know, fine tune it, you can do that. But I really do think, you know, just looking at the reference, it is kind of a spontaneous, just really loose type drawing. I think it'll be fun to just even go like, you know, at the edges and just kind of do like, you know, just some like wavy cross hatching. Just have fun with it, you know, just, I find that sometimes, and you can see kind of, they're definitely going outside the lines, which, you know, we all want to do, especially right now. And just, you know, tangle them. So when you tangle the lines, you know, you're getting some darker areas. I'm just kind of going to go around the areas that need to be a little bit more pronounced. I think maybe the top of the railing can use a little bit of maybe being a little bit darker. This line could be straighter. Okay. So we've got about 7 minutes left. Melissa, should we kind of do questions and reflections and all of that?
Sure, everybody is unmuted.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions about any of the technique, the shading, structuring? Did you find the points useful? The vanishing points?
Yes.
Yes, very useful. And
Okay.
I also find it very useful in doing non-architectural drawings, just so that things, I mean, it helps in absolutely everything, in my opinion, because it just does make you aware of the perspective of something, whether you're drawing a table and chairs. You just kind of, it's more in perspective. It can be very loose, but this
it
really
enforces
helps.
point of view. It makes you, it kind of helps you double check what you're doing. No, you're absolutely right. For example, if I'm drawing a flower, you know, I have to be aware that, you know, if I'm seeing the top of the petals, I can't possibly be seeing the base of the rose. And I think just having that is a good reminder. And you know, some people like to have that reference, you know, to all of these are things that are there to help you. They're not there to confine you. So what do you think of the kind of the line shading? Because I don't think if we those that we've done the class, I don't know that we've really done a lot of that, the line shading. Does anyone have a preferred method of shading? No? Can I use everything? Yes, Shanna. I'm having a hard time hearing you. What pencil did I use?
Yeah.
I used a Prisma pencil.
I'm using 2B.
Which is no, it's a Prisma pencil. It's like the colored pencils that we used in this class. And the reason I had it to be out and I use it. No, actually, this is a 5B. I like that the Prisma pencils don't have any residue. I mean, you can see I have very minimal on on my hands, and it's kind of creamy, so it really does go without causing a lot of pressure on your arm. But a B pencil is good, charcoal sticks, Conte crayons, whatever you can find. Any other questions?
It's not finished, but what do you think?
Who's talking to me? Andre?
The hardest part is under the bridge. I can't get that very well.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Andre, is that I did not want to do another perspective with lines. I thought we kind of leave it somewhat finished.
To get the proportion right, it's very difficult.
Your most important really lines are going to be this line over here, okay, and then those lines. And if you have them follow this, they should be fine. See, because you already did this bridge, okay. So these lines are following. These horizontal lines are following these lines, and then these lines are going to be down straight.
Okay.
Does that make more sense? I mean, it does have a lot of separations in it, but I didn't want to turn this into a monster. So, we're just keeping it simple and keeping the focus on the arches and kind of the walking bridge over here.
Wow, when I saw that drawing, I thought, how on earth are we ever going to draw?
I felt the
so
same way.
complicated? And it's interesting it's very interesting. Very
Okay, good.
It's
See,
mentally,
it's a lot,
mentally
it's a lot.
challenging.
Sorry?
To me, it's a mental challenge to see that I can make it look halfway like a bridge. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Sharon, I've never met you before, but I've been, teaching for probably close to 30 years. And I really do believe that, maybe only 70% of what artists do is actually talent. The rest is practice, observation. And the most important thing is to kind of leave the misconceptions we have behind, that things look a certain way. If you trust your vision, then your drawing will be yours and it won't be somebody else's. And it's just like anything else, like people, for example, who can't cook, and then suddenly they follow a recipe. It's like, I made something. So it's all, just taking these components and being able to observe. And with practice, they start coming together. And that's the trick. You have to be open to seeing things. What I can do as a teacher is I can point things out to you, but I absolutely cannot make you see something. But keeping an open mind to, okay, well, I'll try to see that, or I'll try to do this, and then things start coming together, and you're able to do it. And I'm glad that you're happy with your drawing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually, for no straight lines, I think I got it.
I think that looks awesome.
Very nice.
So can everybody kind of put theirs up so we can just see everything? Okay, Melissa, you just
Yeah.
wow. You got some art for your house now. Okay, Susanna, that's wonderful. Phyllis?
Can you see mine?
Yes. Wow.
So
These
weird.
are honestly, can everybody see everybody else's?
No.
No, can we,
If
everybody?
you put it in the grid view, you can.
Okay, so go to grid view so you can see everybody's. Wow, Sharon, that's awesome. I still can't see yours. Mom, that's really good, Jerry.
Thank you.
Okay, Carol.
Here's Sherry.
You hold
Carol,
it over your face.
up.
Over your face.
And Lucia, I can't see yours.
There we go.
Okay, hi, Alina.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Can you see
I
mine?
have a student, but she's been hiding, but she has definitely been
Yeah,
been listening.
Sherry,
Spend-
yours.
Noel,
Yes.
if I send you a picture, will that be okay?
Of course.
Geraldine, hello, Jerry.
hi.
Now, I was asking if it'd be okay to get it graded.
No.
I'll give out
No.
stickers.
Yeah.
No.
Well, this was great, and I love they all look so different, but honestly, for you know,
That's
an hour,
always the case.
our session was an hour, but you've been working for much less than that. I think you know, this draw along has been great. I'm so happy to see these, and I hope this gave you, you know, a little kind of refresher and a nice change. And I look forward to seeing you next week.